Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews, and today we're going to be talking about Black Clover 128. The chapter released early, I guess, compared to the last 2 weeks, but it's a Thursday, it's out, I'm ready to review it. To give you guys an update, I do read the other chapters, I just haven't done the catch-up video just yet. The one I'm most behind on is probably My Hero Academia. I've got a few chapters to read of that, but I am up to date with the 7 Deadly Sins. I am up to date with One Piece. I just have to do those catch-up videos and then we'll get back into the flow of things. Also, I did do an episode 1 review of Black Clover. It is in the playlist Black Clover Anime. Feel free to check that out when you get the chance. And the episodes come out on a Tuesday, so my videos will also come out on a Tuesday, but slightly later, UK-ish time, similar kind of time to what we have now. That being said, this is all about Black Clover. Let's get into it. So, before going into the details and thoughts and theories and a lot of different things I tend to discuss with my friends, families, and members of my comment section, I want to talk about the chain of events that happened. If you look at the actual chapter purely from a chain of events point of view, not a lot actually happens to explain. What happens essentially is the king is outraged because essentially something happened without his permission, but the Sorcerer Emperor carries on anyway. He separates or stops using his magic, his Chronos time magic, stop Langris and Asta fighting, kind of pauses them and essentially tells them, I would like to see you fight, but this is an exam and essentially we're going to set up the next round. I like the idea that this is actually going to be an official match. And they set this up essentially like a semi-final. Same rules apply, crystals and so on and so forth. What it was interesting about it was, had this not have happened, Seki Bronzer was going to be dead because ultimately he was going to get cut by Yami's dimensional slash, which would, I'm assuming, would have cut him in half. So a positive has come out from it, even though he is kind of a troll character. Essentially, that saved his life. Beyond that, there's a conversation that happens between Max and the King, Sorcerer King or Sorcerer Emperor, that I found interesting, and then the clash starts with them doing their thing. Seki Bronzer's out. The character that does the ice on Langris' team isn't really involved properly, but essentially Zax or Zerx, depending on the translation you look at, because Manga Stream still calls it Zax, but apparently Gemini Box, based on another translation, based on a volume release, has referred to him as Zerx. So they're going to refer to him as Zerx. Anyway, that being said, he has this crazy grin on his face saying he'll help, even though he finds knights fighting between themselves pathetic. And then the clash starts with Asta telling him, Langris, that you're not really a knight. Finral's the one who wishes to help people, and essentially he acknowledged him. So that's his motivations. Decent chapter if you look at the chain of events, but nothing major happens. Nothing crazy develops other than we know now it's going to be an official match with people watching. Now, let's talk about the key talking points here. So the key talking points, the chapter speaks for itself in terms of the match. We now know this is going to be an official match. So if Asta wins this, he'll essentially become the part of the team that's going to be in the final, more or less. That's the first talking point for me. There's not much more to say about that other than the fact that's a big deal. Okay, so that out of the way, let's talk about everything else. The main thing that stuck for me was the statement that the king, or the Sorcerer Emperor, made, I should say. He should be the king, really, but you know, semantics and politics and royal bloodlines and everything else aside. So the actual thought that there is a unconscious traitor, so a traitor that doesn't know he's being a traitor, his mind is being manipulated to do such things, was interesting. The reason why it was interesting to me was because if you think back to Paizo, the captain of Zodia, the previous captain of the crew, I forgot what, Purple Orca, sorry, the previous leader of the Purple Orca. I feel that he is the same thing as what's going on here. I feel that essentially he was an underhanded man who didn't know he did those things, and he panicked because he was an underhanded man and not because he did those things. He probably didn't even know. So I think that's important to bear in mind, and I think that was really just to throw people off the real traitor's case. So there is a person there manipulating minds, manipulating memories, and essentially doing the White Knight Eye, the Third Eye's bidding. So that being said, he basically explains that he thinks that something like this is going on, so where powerful mana meets powerful mana, essentially resonation happens, and we see the true feelings of people and the true essence of people. And that's what's happening with Langris. Langris is essentially being pushed, and he's getting pissed, and he's getting really angry, and he really wants to show he's the best. And that's his inner demon, I guess, because he's been sat with that for a long time, wanting to be the best, prove he's worth all the effort, and he turned out to be a big thing. He doesn't want to be a failure. That being said, this answers a lot more questions that we don't have the answers for. One of the questions is, if he knew this, how long has he known this for? Has he set this whole tournament up in preparation of that? He did say that was one of his reasons, but when did he get the idea? And if he knew earlier, did he also know about Paiza? Or was that the trigger that made him think about that? What this also makes me think, will this lead to something where he's going to be able to, essentially, the former captain is going to be able to reaffirm himself, retribution, payback, redeem himself, because maybe the Sorcerer's Emperor has actually set this up so he's actually free, but he's going to be used later on. By taking a pawn off the table, the bad people can't use that pawn against the Sorcerer Emperor, and maybe if they think he's been taken, or the infiltrators think he's been kind of held captive, that they won't use him. Now, it leads me to believe that ultimately the Sorcerer Emperor is setting all these things up to find out who the real traitor is. Not the control traitor, although he's saying that. I think it's ultimately there to find out who the real traitor is. He probably doesn't believe that Paiza is the real traitor and there's somebody else. My money is on Marx. I don't know why. I just feel like he's possibly the one. I had this thought reading it that if Marx was the traitor, could it possibly be that Zax was, by touching the Sorcerer's Emperor, was going to interfere with the manipulation of the mind that Marx was trying to do on the Emperor without him realizing? Because magic is a tricky thing. If you're not aware of it happening, illusions and all these kind of things can be really effective. So there are some elements, and I like this about magic. There's so many possibilities. I'm looking forward to what happens next. But I like also the fact that Mimosa is helping Asta, healing him, because again we get reaffirmed that okay, Asta can cut them, but it's to show the sheer mass of these attacks that's causing him damage, and it was the sheer mass of attacks that caused Finral damage last time, and they've learned from that, and Mimosa's helping. Now, these two fighting together also equals Seki Bronze not really been there, so I'm hoping Zerx can have a fight with Snow Lady and hopefully get an outcome. Also, we get acknowledgement that Langris understands that if Asa hits the crystal, it's done. That's why he's attacking. All these little pieces of the puzzle, that was actually really interesting. That being said, a pretty interesting chapter. Lots to look forward to. A lot of questions yet to be answered, and I'm sure as we get more answers, we'll probably have more questions. So, an interesting thing. How does it affect everything else? We don't know. We have to see the outcome of this battle. At the end of the chapter on the manga stream release, it just says like a sudden development. What could that be? Will Langris develop a third eye? Is he the traitor unconsciously? Oh, is Asta the traitor? Let's throw a complete curveball in there. What if Asta didn't know he was a traitor, and maybe when actually Langris does his whatever he does, his magic that comes out, it resonates with Asta's sword, and maybe Asta can beat him, take that power, the powers potentially. There's so many different things that you can do with magic. I'm excited. I want to see what happens. That being said, brilliant chapter. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of it. Any ideas that maybe something I mentioned kind of kickstarted. If you've got anything different, especially if it's different to what I'm saying, if it's against the grain or if it's like completely opposite, I'd like to know in the comment section below. Like as always, like, comment, share and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.